Jack Daniels stared at the faded blue reunion invitation like it was a speeding ticket he couldn't afford to pay. Single dad, struggling contractor. And now a 20-year college reunion inviting him back to the place where his life had once seemed so full of promise. The glossy cardstock felt like sandpaper against his calloused fingers, a stark reminder of how far his reality had drifted from his youthful ambitions. "Dad, are you going to make pancakes or just stare at that paper all morning?" His 13-year-old daughter Lily stood in the doorway of their modest kitchen, arms crossed over her favorite worn-out soccer jersey. "Sorry, kiddo." He slipped the invitation under a stack of overdue bills and managed a smile. "Blueberry or chocolate chip? Both, obviously." Lily rolled her eyes with the practiced expertise of a teenager. "What's that invitation anyway? You look like someone punched you." Jack flipped the first pancake, buying himself time. "Just some college reunion thing, nothing important. You should go," Lily said, suddenly serious. "When was the last time you went anywhere that wasn't work or my soccer games?" Jack laughed, but there was no humor in it. "And who's going to pay the mortgage while I'm partying with people who probably all became doctors and lawyers? Mom would want you to have friends." Lily's voice grew quiet. "It's been 3 years, Dad." The pancake batter sizzled as Jack poured another circle onto the griddle. 3 years since cancer had taken Amanda, leaving him to raise their daughter alone while his contracting business slowly collapsed under medical debt. 3 years of just surviving, not living. "I'll think about it," he lied. But later that night, after Lily had gone to bed, Jack found himself staring at the invitation again. Stanford University, class of 2003. 20 years gone in the blink of an eye. His finger traced over the RSVP information, and for a moment, he allowed himself to remember Tara Zimmerman, the biology major with the infectious laugh, who'd stolen his heart sophomore year. They'd been inseparable for 3 years, until graduation sent them in different directions, him to start his construction company, her to Harvard Business School. They'd promised to make it work, but distance and ambition had slowly pulled them apart. He wondered what had become of her. The last he'd heard through mutual friends, nearly 15 years ago, she'd been climbing the corporate ladder at some tech firm in Silicon Valley. With a sigh that seemed to come from the deepest part of him, Jack picked up his phone and typed a response to the RSVP email. Maybe Lily was right. Maybe it was time to remember who he used to be. The drive to Stanford from his small rental house outside Sacramento took longer than he remembered. His old pickup truck protested the journey with concerning rattles that Jack mentally added to his growing list of expenses he couldn't afford. He'd left Lily with his sister for the weekend, promising to call twice a day and bring back a Stanford sweatshirt. He'd nearly backed out 3 times that morning, once while shaving and noticing the gray at his temples, once while trying on his only decent button-up shirt and finding it tighter than he remembered, and again when calculating the gas money for the trip. But here he was, parking in a visitor's lot that cost nearly as much as a week's groceries, straightening his shirt and wondering why he felt like a teenager heading to prom rather than a 42-year-old widower attending a college reunion. The campus was both familiar and foreign, like revisiting a childhood home now occupied by strangers. New buildings stood where open fields had once been, but the iconic palm-lined main quad remained unchanged. Students lounged on the grass, laptops open, future still stretching endlessly before them. Jack felt the weight of his own choices and circumstances as he walked toward the Alumni Center. The reunion was being held in a grand ballroom he didn't recognize, probably donated by some tech billionaire alumnus. A banner welcomed the class of 2003, and Jack hesitated at the entrance, suddenly feeling out of place among the designer outfits and confident smiles. "Name, please." A cheerful student volunteer smiled from behind a table of name tags. "Isaac Daniels," he said, the formality of his full name feeling strange on his tongue. "Isaac? Oh my God," a woman's voice called from behind him. He turned to find Megan Chen, his former study partner from advanced calculus, rushing toward him for a hug. "Everyone just calls me Jack now," he explained as she squeezed him tight. "Jack, of course. You look great. Are you still in construction?" I've been following your company on LinkedIn for years. Jack forced a smile. His once promising business, Daniel's Construction, had shrunk from 20 employees to just himself and occasionally a day laborer when he could afford the help. Still at it, he said vaguely. What about you? As Megan launched into her success story, something about hedge funds and a second home in Aspen, Jack scanned the room, partly out of curiosity and partly to avoid having to elaborate on his own circumstances. And then he saw her. Tara Zimmerman stood across the room, surrounded by a small circle of admirers. Her chestnut hair was shorter than he remembered, falling in elegant waves just above her shoulders. She wore a simple black dress that somehow looked more sophisticated than all the flashier outfits around her. 20 years had only enhanced her beauty, adding a confident grace to her movements as she laughed at something someone said. Jack's heart stuttered in his chest as years of carefully constructed emotional walls threatened to crumble. He'd loved only 2 women in his life: Amanda, his late wife, and before her, Tara. Seeing her again sent him spiraling back to the intensity of first love, of all-night conversations about dreams and fears, of the passion that had once made him believe anything was possible. Earth to Jack, Megan waved her hand in front of his face. You haven't heard a word I've said, have you? Sorry, he mumbled, tearing his gaze away from Tara. It's just a lot to take in. Megan followed his line of sight and smirked knowingly. Ah, Tara Zimmerman. Or should I say, Tara Zimmerman, CEO of Nexatech. Did you know she made the cover of Business Weekly last month? 30 under 30, then 40 under 40, and now running one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. Jack blinked in surprise. He knew Tara had been ambitious, but CEO of a major tech company. The gap between their lives seemed to widen into an uncrossable canyon. You should go say hi, Megan encouraged, giving him a gentle push. She's not married, you know. Apparently she's been too busy conquering Silicon Valley. I don't think, Jack, is that Jack Daniels? A booming voice interrupted his protest as Patrick Reynolds, his former roommate, approached with open arms. Man, how long has it been? As Jack was pulled into conversation after conversation, he kept finding his gaze drawn back to Tara. Once he caught her looking in his direction, and for a brief moment, their eyes met across the crowded room. She paused mid-sentence, a flicker of recognition crossing her features before someone reclaimed her attention. It was nearly an hour before Jack found himself at the bar, ordering a beer and wondering why he'd thought this was a good idea. Everyone seemed eager to share their successes, the startups they'd launched, the countries they'd visited, the children excelling at private schools. He'd shared stories about Lily, of course, his one true pride, but had deflected questions about his business with practiced vagueness. Jack Daniels, I thought that was you. The voice behind him sent electricity up his spine. He turned slowly, beer in hand, to find Tara standing there, her eyes still that same captivating shade of amber studying him with warm curiosity. Tara, he said, her name feeling both foreign and familiar on his tongue. It's been a long time. 20 years, if you don't count that awkward run-in at Whole Foods when I was visiting my parents in 2008. She smiled, and Jack was transported back to their college days when that smile had been his personal sunrise. I remember, he said softly. You were with some guy in a fancy suit. Brad, she nodded. Investment banker, that lasted about 6 months longer than it should have. She paused, studying him. I heard about Amanda. I'm so sorry, Jack. The genuine compassion in her voice caught him off guard. Thank you, he managed, surprised she knew. It's been 3 years. And your daughter, Lily, right? How old is she now? 13 going on 30. Jack found himself smiling genuinely for the first time that evening. Soccer star, straight A student, and expert at rolling her eyes at everything I say. Tara laughed, the sound washing over him like a warm wave. She sounds wonderful. You must be so proud. She's the best thing in my life, he said simply, then felt compelled to add, congratulations on Nexatech. CEO is impressive. A shadow crossed Tara's face. Thank you, it's been a journey. She glanced around the crowded room. Do you want to maybe find somewhere quieter to catch up? These events always feel more like performances than reunions. Jack hesitated only briefly before nodding. I'd like that. They found themselves walking across the campus, the California evening warm and fragrant with eucalyptus. Jack felt acutely aware of the contrast between them, his worn jeans and department store button-up against her elegant dress, his calloused hands against her manicured ones, his struggling business against her corporate empire. "So," Tara broke the comfortable silence as they reached the engineering fountain. "Tell me about Daniel's construction. Still building those eco-friendly homes you used to sketch in your notebooks." Jack winced internally. Those ambitious designs had been the foundation of his business plan's sustainable, innovative homes that merged craftsmanship with environmental consciousness. For a while, he'd been successful, even featured in a few architectural magazines. "Not exactly," he admitted, deciding honesty was easier than pretense. "The recession hit us hard, and then Amanda's medical bills." He trailed off, then squared his shoulders. "I'm mostly doing renovations and repairs now, smaller jobs, just me, no crew." He waited for the polite sympathy, the subtle distancing he'd grown accustomed to when people realized he wasn't the success they'd assumed. Instead, Tara nodded thoughtfully. "You were always amazing with your hands," she said, and he caught the slight flush that rose to her cheeks at the unintended double meaning. "I mean the craftsmanship. Remember that bookshelf you built for our apartment junior year? I kept it until my last move." Something warm unfurled in Jack's chest. "You did. It was beautiful," she said simply. "Quality always is." They settled on a bench overlooking the quad, and Jack found himself asking about Nexatech. To his surprise, Tara spoke not of stock options and board meetings, but of the challenges, the sexism she'd faced climbing the corporate ladder, the loneliness of leadership, the constant pressure to sacrifice everything for success. "Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choices," she admitted, looking up at the stars emerging above them. "All those years focused on the next promotion, the next milestone. And here I am, 42 years old, running a company valued at billions, and coming home to an empty apartment with a view of San Francisco that I'm too tired to appreciate most nights." "You've accomplished amazing things," Jack said, meaning it. "You should be proud." "I am," she said, then added softly, "but I've been thinking a lot lately about paths not taken." Her gaze met his, and the weight of unspoken history hung between them. Jack felt a pull toward her that he hadn't experienced with anyone since Amanda died. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, like standing at the edge of a precipice. "What about you?" Tara asked. "Any regrets about the road you took?" Jack thought about his life, the financial struggles, the long hours trying to keep his business afloat, the nights spent worrying about giving Lily the life she deserved. But he also thought about watching his daughter grow, about the homes he'd helped build and restore, about the simple satisfaction of creating something with his hands. "I regret not being able to give Lily more," he said honestly, "but I don't regret the life I've built, even with its challenges." He paused, then added, "I do regret losing touch with you." Tara's hand found his on the bench between them, her fingers cool against his warm skin. "Me too." The campus clock tower chimed in the distance, breaking the moment. Jack glanced at his watch, surprised to find they'd been talking for over 2 hours. "We should probably head back," he said reluctantly. "People will wonder where the guest of honor disappeared to." Tara laughed. "Hardly. Most of them just want to network with the CEO of Nexatech anyway." She stood, smoothing her dress. "But you're right. There's a breakfast thing tomorrow that I'm supposed to speak at." They walked back toward the reunion in comfortable silence, Jack acutely aware of how close Tara was, how natural it felt to be beside her again despite the years and lives that had stretched between them. At the entrance to the Alumni Center, Tara paused. "I'm in town until Sunday. Would you maybe want to meet for coffee tomorrow? I'd love to hear more about Lily." Jack thought about the long drive home, about the jobs waiting for him on Monday, about all the reasons this was probably a bad idea. But looking at Tara, he found himself nodding. "I'd like that," he said, and meant it more than he'd expected to. When Jack arrived at the small cafe near campus the next morning, he was surprised to find Tara already there, dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger, more like the Tara he'd known in college, and his heart gave a familiar leap. "No CEO power suit today," he teased as he sat across from her. She smiled, pushing a coffee toward him black with one sugar, exactly how he'd always taken it. "I'm off duty." "Besides, those things are basically expensive straitjackets. You remembered my coffee order," he said, touched by the small detail. "I remember a lot of things," she replied, her eyes soft. "Like how you used to sing in the shower, but only when you thought I couldn't hear, and how you could fall asleep anywhere, including that time in the library during finals week." Jack laughed. "I was working 3 jobs and taking 18 units. Sleep was a luxury." "You always pushed yourself too hard," Tara said, a hint of concern in her voice. Says the woman running a tech empire. Taché. Their conversation flowed easily, jumping between memories of their college days and updates on their lives since. Jack found himself sharing stories about Lily that he normally kept private: her struggle after losing her mother, her resilience, her recent interest in architecture that made him both proud and wistful. "She sounds incredible," Tara said. "She must take after her father." "She's got Amanda's stubbornness," Jack smiled. "But yeah, she likes building things. She's been helping me on some of my smaller jobs this summer." "And how's business, really?" Tara asked, her expression serious. "You glossed over it last night, but I could tell there was more to the story." Jack hesitated, pride warring with honesty. "It's been tough," he finally admitted. "The medical bills wiped out our savings, and the housing market hasn't fully recovered in our area. I'm making enough to keep us afloat, but," he shrugged, "not much beyond that." Tara nodded, her expression thoughtful rather than pitying. "What would you do if money wasn't an issue? Would you go back to building those sustainable homes you used to dream about?" "In a heartbeat," Jack said without hesitation. "I've got designs I still work on sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep. Eco-friendly family homes that don't cost a fortune. That was always the dream: quality, sustainability, and accessibility, not just green houses for rich people." Tara's eyes lit up with interest. "Have you considered approaching investors? That kind of vision is exactly what the market needs right now." Jack laughed, the sound slightly bitter. "No offense, Tara, but investors aren't exactly lining up to back a small-time contractor with debt and a spotty business record." "You'd be surprised," she said cryptically. "The right idea with the right person behind it can open doors." She leaned forward, her coffee forgotten. "Would you show me your designs sometime, just out of curiosity?" Something about her earnest interest weakened his defenses. "They're nothing fancy, just sketches mostly." "I'd still like to see them," she insisted. "I mean, if you want to share them." Before Jack could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Dad, Aunt Karen is making kale for lunch. Save me," he chuckled, showing the message to Tara. "Parental duty calls. I should probably head back to Sacramento." "Of course," Tara said, though he thought he detected disappointment in her voice. She hesitated, then pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "This is my personal number, not the one my assistant screens. If you ever want to talk more about those designs, or anything else." Jack took the card, his fingers brushing hers. "I'd like that." The drive home gave Jack too much time to think. He fluctuated between replaying every moment with Tara and scolding himself for reading too much into their reconnection. She was being friendly, maybe even professionally interested in his designs, but surely nothing more. Their worlds were too different now. Lily was full of questions when he picked her up from his sister's house. "Did you see anyone famous? Did they remember you? Did you dance? Did you bring me a sweatshirt?" Jack laughed, handing her a Stanford shopping bag. "Yes to the sweatshirt, no to the dancing, and define famous. You know, like people who are super successful now, like inventors or movie stars or CEOs." Jack's hand tightened imperceptibly on the steering wheel. "Actually, I did reconnect with someone who became a CEO, Tara Zimmerman. We dated in college." Lily's eyes widened with interest. "Seriously?" "What company?" "Nexatech. It's a big tech firm in Silicon Valley." "Nexatech." Lily nearly bounced out of her seat. "Dad, that's not just some company. They make the best environmental monitoring systems in the world. We just did a whole project on them in science class." Jack blinked in surprise. "You did?" "Yeah, they're revolutionizing how cities track and reduce pollution. Their CEO is supposed to be this total genius woman who, codes and designs hardware and runs the whole company. Lily studied him with new appreciation. And you dated her. A long time ago, Jack said, feeling strangely defensive. People change. Was she nice? Is she still pretty? Did she remember you? Did you get her number? The questions came rapid fire. Yes, 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 and that's enough questions, Jack said firmly, though he couldn't help but smile at his daughter's enthusiasm. That night, after Lily was in bed, Jack found himself taking out Tara's business card, running his thumb over the embossed Nexa Tech logo and the handwritten number on the back. Before he could talk himself out of it, he sent a text. "Thanks for coffee. It was good catching up." Jack, the response came almost immediately. "I meant what I said about your designs. I'd love to see them sometime." Jack stared at his phone, conflicted. Part of him wanted to keep his dreams private, protected from potential disappointment. But another part, a part that had been dormant for too long, felt a spark of hope. "I'll scan some of them tomorrow," he wrote back. "But don't expect anything groundbreaking. I've always believed in your vision, Jack. That hasn't changed." Her words stayed with him as he fell asleep, warming something inside him that had been cold for too long. The next few weeks brought an unexpected shift in Jack's life. What started as sharing a few design sketches with Tara evolved into regular video calls where they discussed his ideas for sustainable, affordable housing. Tara asked pointed questions, offered insights from her business perspective, and seemed genuinely excited about his vision. They also talked about other things: Lily's soccer tournaments, Tara's struggles with her board of directors, memories from their college days. Sometimes, late at night after Lily was asleep, their conversations would drift into more personal territory: regrets, dreams, the paths their lives had taken. "I've been thinking," Tara said one evening, her face serious on Jack's laptop screen. "Nexa Tech has been looking to diversify our environmental initiatives. Our monitoring systems are designed to track environmental impact, but we've been wanting to move into more proactive solutions." Jack nodded, not sure where she was heading. "What if we created a subsidiary focused on sustainable housing, using your designs as the foundation, our technology integrated with your construction expertise?" Jack stared at her, certain he'd misunderstood. "You want to?" "What?" "I want to fund your vision, Jack, as a business partnership. Nexa Tech would provide the capital and technological integration. You would oversee design and construction. We'd start with a pilot project, maybe 5 homes to prove the concept, and expand from there." Jack felt lightheaded. "Tara, that's millions of dollars of investment." "Yes," she said simply. "And it would be worth every penny if we could prove that truly sustainable, affordable housing is viable. This isn't charity, Jack, it's good business. The market is ready for this, and you're the right person to make it happen." "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," she urged. "I'm coming to Sacramento next week for a conference. We could meet in person, go over the details." Jack agreed to consider it, his mind racing with possibilities. That night, he pulled out all his old designs, spreading them across the kitchen table and losing himself in the work until early morning. For the first time in years, he felt the electric current of genuine excitement about his future. When he explained the potential opportunity to Lily, her reaction surprised him. "Dad, that's amazing," she exclaimed, then her expression grew more thoughtful. "But is it just about business? Because you get this weird smile whenever you talk about Tara." Jack felt his cheeks warm. "It's a professional opportunity, Lily." "Uh-huh," his daughter said skeptically. "That's why you changed your shirt 3 times before your video call yesterday. Don't you have homework?" He deflected, but Lily's observation stuck with him. The truth was, his feelings for Tara had been reawakening, growing more complicated with each conversation. He admired her business acumen and ethical approach to her work. He enjoyed her dry wit and the way she still laughed at really good jokes. He found himself looking forward to their calls with an eagerness that went beyond professional interest. But the prospect of mixing business with pleasure, especially when the business opportunity could change his and Lily's lives, so dramatically made him cautious. What if things got complicated? What if feelings got hurt? What if it all fell apart? When Tara arrived in Sacramento the following week, they met at a quiet restaurant downtown. She looked both professional and approachable in a simple blazer over jeans, her smile warming when she spotted him waiting near the entrance. "It's good to see you in person," she said, giving him a quick hug that somehow managed to feel both casual and electric. They spent the first hour discussing business, the structure of the potential partnership, the timeline, the financial details. Tara had brought preliminary paperwork and projections that showed she'd put serious thought into the venture. "This could really work," Jack said, almost to himself as he reviewed the numbers. "I know it can," Tara said confidently, "but there's something else we should discuss." She set down her fork, meeting his gaze directly. "I need to be honest about something, Jack. My interest in this project isn't purely business." Jack felt his heart rate accelerate. "What do you mean, seeing you again at the reunion? It stirred up feelings I thought I'd put behind me." Tara's voice was steady, but he could see vulnerability in her eyes. "I've dated other men over the years, but no one ever quite measured up to what we had. I told myself it was just nostalgia, but these past few weeks of talking with you." She took a deep breath. "I still have feelings for you, Jack, and I need you to know that before we move forward with any business arrangement." Jack sat back in his chair, momentarily speechless. "Tara, you don't need to say anything right now," she interrupted. "I just needed to be transparent. If you want to keep things strictly professional, I understand completely. The business opportunity stands on its own merits." Jack reached across the table and took her hand. "When Amanda died, I thought that part of my life was over. Being a dad and keeping my business afloat took everything I had. I didn't have room for anything else." He squeezed her fingers gently. "But since reconnecting with you, I've started to feel alive again in a way I haven't for years." Tara's eyes softened. Really," he affirmed. "But I come with complications. I'm a package deal with a teenage daughter. I have responsibilities that have to come first." "I would never want anything less," Tara said. "Lily sounds amazing, and your dedication to her is part of what I've always admired about you." "And there's the business aspect," Jack continued. "If we mix personal and professional, it comes with risks," Tara acknowledged, "but most things worth doing do." She smiled, a hint of the college girl he'd fallen for shining through her professional exterior. "I'm willing to navigate it if you are." The next few months brought whirlwind changes to Jack's life. With Nexa Tech's backing, he launched Eco Home Innovations, a subsidiary focused on his sustainable housing designs. They broke ground on their first model home, with 4 more planned once the concept was proven. Jack hired back several of his former crew members, along with new staff specialized in green technology. More significantly, his relationship with Tara deepened. They moved cautiously at first, mindful of the business entanglement and the need to ensure Lily was comfortable with the development. To Jack's relief, his daughter and Tara bonded almost immediately over shared interests in environmental science, and unexpectedly, vintage video games, a hobby Tara admitted she used to relieve executive stress. "She's actually really cool, Dad," Lily confided one night after Tara had joined them for dinner. "And she looks at you like you're something special." "Is that your way of saying you approve?" Jack asked, trying to sound casual. Lily rolled her eyes in classic teenage fashion. "Duh. Mom would approve too, you know. She always said she wanted you to be happy if anything happened to her." Jack pulled his daughter into a hug, his throat tight with emotion. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You're just finally noticing," she quipped, but hugged him back tightly. 6 months after the reunion, Jack stood in the completed model home, the first tangible proof that his vision could become reality. The house combined cutting-edge environmental technology with thoughtful, family-friendly design and craftsman-quality construction. Most importantly, the projected sale price put it within reach of middle-income families, proving that sustainability didn't have to be a luxury. "It's even better than I imagined," Tara said, walking through the open-concept living area where Nexa Tech's environmental monitoring systems were seamlessly integrated into the design. "We've already got a waiting list for the next 4, Jack told her, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "And 3 developers have contacted us about licensing the designs for larger projects." I told you people would respond to your vision, Tara said, slipping her hand into his. You just needed the chance to show them. Jack pulled her closer, still amazed at how naturally they'd fallen back into each other's lives. I couldn't have done it without you believing in me. That part was easy, she said, rising on her tiptoes to kiss him softly. I always did. That evening, they celebrated with Lily at Jack's house, now considerably less cluttered with bills and worries. Over dinner, Tara surprised them both by revealing that she'd been looking at houses in the Sacramento area. You're moving here? Lily asked excitedly. I'm considering it, Tara said carefully. Nexa Tech has offices here, and with Eco Home taking off, it makes sense for me to be closer to the project. She glanced at Jack. Plus, there are other attractions to the area. But what about being CEO? Don't you need to be in Silicon Valley? Jack asked, trying to process this unexpected development. I've been thinking about that, Tara admitted. The truth is, I've been grooming my COO to take over more responsibilities for a while now. I love what we've built at Nexatech, but after 20 years of giving everything to the company, I'm ready for something different, something more balanced. Are you saying you'd step down? Jack was stunned. Tara's identity had been so wrapped up in her corporate success. Not entirely. I'd stay on as chairwoman of the board and chief innovation officer. But it would give me more freedom, more time for. She looked between Jack and Lily. The things that really matter. 1 year after the Stanford reunion, Jack stood in his backyard, watching as friends and family gathered for Lily's 14th birthday party. His daughter was at the center of a group of teammates, laughing as they attempted to set up a volleyball net. Eco Home innovations had exceeded all expectations, with developments now planned in 3 states. Jack had hired a project manager to oversee daily operations, allowing him to focus on design and spend more time with his family. Penny for your thoughts, Tara said, appearing beside him with 2 glasses of lemonade. Just thinking about how much can change in a year, he replied, accepting the drink. If you'd told me at the reunion that we'd be here now. Would you have believed it? She asked, leaning against him. Not a chance, he admitted, but I'm glad I was wrong. Tara had made good on her plan, transitioning to a less demanding role at Nexatech and moving into a home just 10 minutes from Jack and Lily. The 3 of them had fallen into a comfortable rhythm, with Tara staying over several nights a week and joining them for family activities. Lily asked me something interesting yesterday, Tara said, watching as the teenager successfully spiked the volleyball over the net. Oh, Jack turned to look at her, curious. She asked if I was planning to be her stepmom anytime soon. Tara's expression was carefully neutral, but Jack could detect the underlying question. His heart swelled as he looked at the woman beside him, brilliant, compassionate, and somehow still the same person he'd fallen in love with over 20 years ago. What did you tell her? He asked softly. I told her she should ask her father what his timeline looked like. Tara's lips curved in a small smile. So, any thoughts on that timeline? Jack set down his lemonade and took both her hands in his. As a matter of fact, I do have some thoughts on the subject. But I was planning to save them for tonight. Tara's eyes widened. Jack, he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. I was going to do this after Lily's party with a proper speech and everything, but he opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant engagement ring. Tara Zimmerman, I've loved you across decades and different lives. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Tears filled Tara's eyes as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Absolutely yes. As Jack slipped the ring onto her finger, a cheer erupted from across the yard. They looked up to find Lily and her friends watching, phone cameras held high to capture the moment. It's about time, Dad, Lily called, running over to hug them both. Does this mean Tara's moving in for real now? If that's okay with you, Tara said, arms still around Jack's waist. Are you kidding? This is the best birthday present ever, Lily declared, pulling them both into a group hug. Over his daughter's head, Jack's eyes met Tara's, and in her smile, he saw their future, not the struggling contractor and powerful CEO who'd reconnected by chance, but simply 2 people who'd found their way back to each other, ready to build a new life together, one day at a time.